Welcome everybody to Watching Code Office Hours. This is session number 102. So if you're new to Office Hours, the way it works is really simple. It's designed for whenever you're having trouble going through of the lessons at Watching Code, you can get unstuck by asking me directly for help. And so it's really just for you to answer your questions related to any of the material that you're having or the material that you're going through at Watching Code. So a couple of logistics, then we'll go right into the questions. First is if you haven't yet, make sure that you join the Facebook group to hear about upcoming sessions and other updates. That's the main place that I post information. So you want to check that if you're not there already. The second thing is if you have a question and you're watching on YouTube, then you'll need to call in. The link to call in is right here. And so you want to access this document so you can grab that link. And the link to this document is right below the YouTube live stream. So if you're watching on YouTube and you have a question, you need to call in. Next, updates. So I've done a lot of work the past few weeks on revising practical JavaScript, and we're entering kind of the final set of revisions. Um, and so I think it'll be a matter of days until I finalize it and then basically freeze the code and then start filming lessons. So you can preview the code at this link. This is just the finished code. So you won't see the step-by-step commits like you saw before, but I've kind of been working on the final application and I wanted it exactly the way I envisioned, and then now work on the step-by-step commits, and then we'll enter the filming phase. So it's a long process, but I think I've made significant progress because the number of revisions that we've gone through are numerous, maybe 30 or so. And so a lot of work was done to get to this point, and I want to thank everyone that submitted feedback and helped me make this better. So I really appreciate all the feedback from people that have messaged me. So there are too many. I'm not going to try to remember everyone because there are too many. I know I'm going to forget people, but there are many students helped out with that. So I really appreciate it. So that's it for me. I'll go ahead and go into open questions right now. Okay. Andrew, you're first.
Sorry, no questions. Just here to be here. And I do have a idea I wanted to mention to you, but you probably would like that off air or something like that.
Let's just do it now. It's a small group, so.
It's regarding quizzes.
Okay.
It's just a thought I had in my head earlier today. I just want to relay it. Maybe garbage or whatever, but I just thought it was a neat idea. One idea for having tests, like the test framework, and a test or two or whatever, and then the person has to produce the code that would pass that test, or the reverse.
And the reverse would be
producing the actual testing code, and then a code exists. Like you have to do it based off of the code exists. But maybe that one stupid. I don't know.
Yeah. I see where you're going. Yeah, I think that could be interesting. I know a lot of sites already do that. Like a lot of the code challenge sites do that, for example. So it's not a unique idea. So it's something I could think about. So yeah, I'll kind of catalog that as something that could be done, and I'll have to think about that. But yeah, my gut instinct is that I'm less concerned about right. So like when a test case passes, you kind of yeah, Yeah, I guess there is some value because it gives you the flexibility to write um, the code in numerous kind of infinite ways depending on how you want to do it, as long as it passes. So I think that's valuable. Okay, yeah, I'll think about that. It's a good idea.
Okay, just an idea. It doesn't matter.
Thanks, Andrew. Amir, thanks for changing your username.
Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that one. So you have to try to pronounce that.
Yudemas.
But you got it now. So
it just felt like I was talking to a robot, though. I didn't enjoy that.
No problem. I actually do have a couple questions. 2 questions from chapter 2 on the reading section in Premium.
Huh?
The first question is for, and it might be just simple oversight on my part, but when you're looking at when you're clicking completed all or active, that is that's sort of handled through the router, right? And not specifically through any of the jQuery event handlers. Or I mean, it's the template portion is done through the app.js, but you know, if you like click active completed or if you even change it in the URL, right? If we're not refreshing, if I'm just like, right, because the hash that sort of triggers a refresh. But if I'm just like
the hash does not trigger a refresh.
Or if it's not there, then it triggers a refresh. Like if I delete the hash and completed in the URL, and then I just click enter, the app will initialize and then it'll start on all. Mm-hmm. But if I don't do that, if I just leave the hash and then I just like type in completed or active or click active and completed in the actual app, that all starts in the router, right? That's not triggered. That's not like initialized through like any jQuery event handler. Or I might have missed something, or I might have missed it. And I'm sorry, I didn't have time to go back.
Can you point to evidence that supports your hypothesis?
I can't. No, that's why I'm asking, because the only thing I could go ahead.
Can you try?
Yeah. Do you want me to take the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I want you to develop that instinct to investigate and see how far you can get. Like I want to see you kind of hit the limits of what you can figure out.
Okay. Do you have my screen? Do you guys see?
And then I'll help you a little bit.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it. Do you guys see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does this look okay from your perspective here? Or let me go here.
Yeah. Maybe like a little bigger. Just like Command plus once.
How's that?
Yes, that's good.
It's good? Okay. Let me know if you need me to do it again.
Okay.
Well, I did try to add some breakpoints in Director, and initially I just was like, okay. And then, obviously nothing's going on. The only, I can trigger it, obviously, if I go to render, if I add a breakpoint to render, I mean, more specifically right here. And then I go here, but see, render isn't really triggered. I mean,
so what's calling render when you, like, how is render getting called? So you were on all and then you hit completed,
right?
And between that, so between when you're doing nothing and then you hit completed, so the two kind of, if you had a timeline of things you did, you started at nothing, you just and then you hit completed. Between not doing anything and completed, render was called. How was it called?
That's where I'm at. I know it's not init, because like I said, in order for init to be, to run, I'd have to do this. I'd have to get rid of the hash. So I know it's not there. And I mean, I can go to here, to-do list, because that's
let's look at, so we know render is being called somewhere.
Right.
That part it must be true.
Right.
We just don't know where.
Right.
So can you show me where? Let's do process of elimination. Let's index or collect all the places where render is called, and then process of elimination. Try to find one that is more plausibly called in this situation.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, you want me to just add everywhere render is, or like all the actual methods, or just where render is?
Yes. So how about this? Or I'm only interested in where render is called. So
Okay.
can you pull up the developer tools up a little bit so we have more space?
Yeah.
Just drag up.
Yeah.
Yeah, drag it up.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's good. So
Okay.
what I want you to do is, just for illustration purposes, like we're not really going to break on this.
Okay.
I guess we could, right?
Okay.
So just put a breakpoint every single time you see render being called.
Okay.
Don't miss any.
There.
Control F.
Sure.
Yeah, Control F to make sure you didn't miss any.
Oh, there's one.
So you did.
Oh yeah, that I know it can't be that one.
Okay, so check to make sure you have 8 breakpoints.
Oh,
Can you
8?
count?
Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You can just look at the right side. Do you see the breakpoints?
The
right side of the screen.
Oh yeah, that's
just
right.
Count those. That'll be easier.
3,
So do you have 8?
5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I do.
Okay. Now go to active or something. Click active.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Active. Okay.
All right. There's your answer.
I knew it. But how? Because okay, so then it is, but it's not it. See, I haven't really looked into the director like
well, how far are you on the videos?
On the videos I went through the whole chapter, but I mean I haven't really looked into like director.js. I just kind
of you don't need to look into it, right? Because like in the demo, do you remember the demo where I showed you how remember I had a separate app in Glitch that just had a router?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
And how would you explain how that demo worked?
Basically,
like what's the point of a router?
Well, if you click on different links, then it's gonna render, it's gonna render different things on the DOM.
That's not accurate. No.
Okay. Okay.
Can you try again?
No, because
can you open up that demo? Do you have that demo handy?
I think I'd have to go to your video link, right? It's here. Oh, I'm sorry. It's already in the. Is it in the README?
No. Is it? I don't remember. I mean, I definitely mentioned it in the video.
That's you. Sorry. I think it is in the. I think it is. Is it not?
I mean, can you close those 2 tabs to understand JavaScript?
Oh yeah.
It's bothering me.
Sorry. It's the JS's. All right.
Hold on. A note about that.
Okay.
About what I really want you to have an experimentation first approach when you are confused about something versus a Google first approach.
That was unrelated.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's not related to this at all.
But still, in general, I want to make sure that you have that, right? Because like experimentation, even a really seemingly unsophisticated experiment where we put a breakpoint in every single render and then triggered that, the behavior you're interested in, which is clicking on a new URL, that told you at least which render was being called. Right. And so yeah, that's like when I see like a bunch of Google searches, I worry a little bit because you know, an experiment like that will just direct you to the right spot.
Okay.
And with the demo, with the router demo, it's really the same thing. It's experimenting with a simple example, so you can see the essence of what the router is doing.
Got it.
Right. So it's important to understand that. You don't need to read the. Wait, can you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere.
You don't need to read the source of Director.js to understand the essence of what it's doing.
Okay.
There it is. Hurricane flower.
Hurricane flower. Okay. So, well, should I just hyperdev?
Or glitch or whatever.
Oh yeah. Let's see.
I would go to the URL directly.
Okay. I'm already in there.
Just replace Maze Dealer with Hurricane dash flower. Is that the right URL? Can you double check?
Yeah.
Hurricane. Yeah, it looks right.
Let's see. Should I just take all this out?
No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay. Yeah. Don't know. I can. Oh wait, maybe it's.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so go into index.html.
Okay.
So the code is just right there. It's lines 21 through 28. So there's not much going on here, right?
Right.
And so this is a good example of isolation. So you can isolate. If you know what this file is doing, you know exactly what director does. Right? Because if you know what this file is doing, there's nothing else that director could do. It's just it only does one thing.
But I guess like this is what I don't understand is that because that was actually the last place I thought it would start because why? Because the only, like I said, I'd never refreshed the page, and like an app refresh is going to run init app.init.
Why would you even assume there's an app refresh?
What do you mean? Why would I assume that? Because when I only, like I said, if I just click these aren't causing app refreshes, right?
Yeah,
it's not. It's just like if I were to go like that, it's not causing an app refresh. So why would a init? And I already tested. I know that a init's not running, but router, here it is sitting in the init under the init method. Mm-hmm. So so that's why I'm saying, like, how is it?
Mm-hmm. So, okay. Go to the index.html in the demo, the router demo.
Oh, okay.
And explain to me what's happening.
Where?
Like, do you remember? So there are a bunch of, so hit show live.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, click on them.
Okay.
Wait, open the console too.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, click on all. Oh wait.
Okay.
Yeah. Click on active.
Yeah. Okay.
Click on completed.
Okay.
Click on watching code.
Thank you for watching code. Supporting watching code.
Okay, so now let's do the same thing. Click on the first one.
Okay.
Like, what happened in the console?
It's console.logging all to-dos.
What happened in the URL?
What happened? Oh, it changed to it all.
Okay, click active. What happens?
Right. The URL changed to active and the console.log active to-dos.
What function is responsible for logging active to-dos? Can you show me the function?
For logging active to-dos? Sure.
Yeah, what code ran that? Wrong app.
Oh. Okay, sorry. Oh, here?
Highlight the function that did that. That printed out active to-dos.
Oh, well, right here. This function. Filter to-dos.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Can you now explain what it does? What the router is doing?
Yeah, the router is, I guess it's reading filter, which we're passing into the function, and it's console.logging filter and then to-dos.
Right. And filter was
active.
Okay.
Or whichever one I clicked.
Right. Okay. Go to the demo on the right.
Go to the demo. Okay.
Go to sources.
Go to sources. Okay.
Open the Java. No, it's the index. Yeah. Put a breakpoint in that function that we just looked at.
Okay.
Now go to all.
Okay.
So do you see where's all? So filter is equal to all. You see that?
Yes.
Where's that coming from?
It's coming from well, it's coming from the URL that we're changing here, and it's being passed to this function here.
Yes.
Right. And I guess because the router is in init, it really has me. That's how it had me confused, because I was, like I was saying about like refreshing, because when I refresh the page, then I see app init run, and the router's in init, and so that's kind of what had me all thrown off. Is that I understand that filter is like a property on our app object, but I didn't know this was still sort of like running in the background. I don't really know how to explain that.
Yeah, it's listening for URL changes.
Okay.
So maybe a mental model to think about is when you have an event listener on a elements, like a button that you've seen many times, right?
Right.
It basically listens for clicks on that button.
Right.
The router is almost like an event listener for the URL.
Oh.
When the URL changes,
okay,
you have a callback function almost. Right?
Yeah.
Like in the button, you have a callback function,
Right.
and that callback function is going to run. So maybe that does that.
Yes.
That
really clears it up. Just that right there, because okay.
Wait, could you go back to the app?
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. So that feels good now.
Yes.
Is there anything that doesn't feel good?
No,
nothing.
No, not really.
Not really. So anything maybe a little bit not good?
No. I think I'm good.
What about the init thing? The init thing, I wasn't really. Does that clear up the init thing that you're worried about?
Yeah, it's because like you said, it's like when we have like a jQuery event handler, we pass it a callback function.
Yeah, this is like the callback function.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
each time the URL changes, it's going to render again.
Right. It's because of the callback function it's the same concept. That really does clear it up for me. That makes sense. A lot of sense. Because it's not really done. It's still like it's sort of like when on our jQuery object, when we pass it the callback function. Like for instance, when bind events is run in init, it reads the statements line by line, but like the body of the jQuery on method is waiting for the callback function to call the callback function. So it's sort of, I think it's very similar to what's going on here with the router.
Yep, that's a good way to think about it.
So that's how
Okay, cool.
Yes. Thank you. I had one more question if there's time, if I just could get it in.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Do you still see my screen?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And if it's okay, if I can just like try to like explain this really quick, and then I'll ask the question, and if I'm at all wrong, just stop me, please.
Okay.
Somebody had mentioned this like in the discuss too, because they said, oh, you know, bind this is the same as bind app, and then you had said, oh, well, why don't you try it and see what happens? And then they never said anything. So for me, like when I look at this, at bind this, I thought the same thing, because I was thinking, you know, this should be bind app. But
Mhm.
on further reflection, the value of this is app. And when I look at this, when I see this here and this here, using this within this function, this is the value of the object that invokes this function, which is app. So this dot create dot bind this is the same to me
Hold
as
on,
app.
I don't like the statement. This is the value of the. Wait, what was it? It's the
This
object that invokes the function.
this
I
contains
don't.
the value of the object that invokes this function here, which is app. And that's why app and
Well,
this are the same thing.
I'd say I think okay. So just to pause, when you call bind events as a method, then this will be app,
Right.
right?
Right.
But I don't
But
like
app,
the description that when when it the object thing you use. I'm not
but
just
this and
wanted to pause on that.
but this and app are the same though. And so that can only be because that app is the object that invokes this function here. Okay, let me kind of like keep going, and then again stop me if I'm wrong. That really made me start thinking about this, and then because in create this, and I was talking about, you know, the callback function. In create, like down here, you know, the context is totally different if we don't have bind. Let's just say if we have app.create, the value of this is app. I mean, hence app.create, right?
Mm-hmm.
But up here, this method is not being invoked by app. This method is being invoked by this object, the jQuery object. I mean, because this is a callback function being passed as argument to this method invoked by this object. So that's why we have to bind.
The thing where you keep on saying invoked by this object, I don't think that's accurate. So
okay,
let's be more specific. This create bind this will return a function.
Right.
That function will be called inside of the on method.
Right. Which I don't know what that looks like, but
so
right.
So if you looked at the source code of the on method, you would see how this create bind this is called. We don't know how it's called right now by looking at it by looking at it, but that's how we would find that out.
Right.
So it's not it doesn't really have anything to do with new to do. It might, but it really depends on how on is written.
Okay.
It doesn't have anything to do with new to do.
Okay, because that's what I thought.
Right, so,
it was
so that's why, like in the cheat sheet, when you have a function that's a callback function, you really just need to see how that function is called.
Okay.
Right, and that's why I said apply the above rules methodically.
Right.
Because you don't really you can't really know unless you look at the on.
That's kind of what I was trying to say though, is that even if you look in here, we still know that this is being invoked by, and I know I'm going to try to stop saying that this is the object that's, I guess, responsible for, you know, everything. And that's why we have to bind the app object to this method, right? Because otherwise the object or this in this dot create the value will be equal to this jQuery object, which is what you're saying. That was like their shortcut or what have you.
Was it the jQuery object or just the element? Was it the new to do element with new to do ID or the actual jQuery wrapped?
The actual object.
The actual element. Or was it the element or the jQuery wrapped element?
Say again?
Um,
No,
yes. Yeah. So this, if you don't bind, then this inside of create will be, I don't remember what it is. The jQuery wrapped new to do element or just the new to do element itself.
right. And that's what I was saying. It's just because this is the object that's invoking this function.
That's not
It's not
why, though.
app. Okay.
That's
Okay.
not why. The cause for that behavior is inside of the on method.
Okay.
And we
I kind of look.
we
Yeah.
can't assume what it is by just looking at it like this. This is not the left of the dot rule.
Right. Okay. No. Okay. But app.create.bind this is equivalent to this .create. Or app.create.bind app is equivalent to this .create.bind this.
Is it?
Yes.
Did you test that?
Yes.
Are you so you think that's true?
I don't know. Now I don't know because you're saying that. But
yes, it's right.
Okay.
I just want to see that you tested it. Because remember, because you mentioned a comment where someone asked the same question, and I was like, "Did you try it?" And nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. So okay.
Okay. So what's the question?
The main question I was gonna get at was how do you maintain context, right? How do you stay in context? Because it gets crazy, right? Because app and this are the same, and when you start to see this everywhere, it's just like, and I'll look at this right now, and for me, the keyword this is it owns this method that's being passed as an argument to this method invoked by this object inside this function, which is a method of this object. It gets crazy.
Yeah.
And how do you
so you take it step by step, right? So to stay on the code.
Okay.
So the first question, you want to break it up. So in bind events between 56 and 64, in the body of bind events, what is the value? We will know that answer, or we will know the answer to that question when we see how bind events is called.
Right.
So how's bind events called?
It's
show me where bind events is called.
In init.
Yeah. So what from the cheat sheet, what case are we looking at here?
What case?
Yeah, from the cheat sheet, this cheat sheet.
I don't have that cheat sheet memorized. Sorry.
Open it up.
Okay. Is it in the README?
It's on my GitHub.
On your GitHub.
So github.com.
Okay. GitHub.com. Oh, there it is. I guess
that one, the first one. Yeah.
Okay, it's loading. I have full internet. Okay.
Cheat sheet.
This one. Okay.
Do you remember seeing this?
Oh, I looked at this a little bit and then I forgot to come back to it.
You should have this on. You should just leave this open all the time.
Okay.
Until you're really comfortable with this.
Okay.
Okay. So what case applies? So go back to the app.
Everywhere now. That's you. That's okay.
Okay. What case applies in line 46?
In line 46?
Yeah.
Okay. This dot bind events. It's not this one. When the function is called as a method, this points to the object that's on the. It's probably case 2. Yes.
Okay. So if it's case 2, what? Okay. So go back to the code.
Okay.
So that means this inside of bind events will be whatever's to the left of the dot. Which is right. Which is this.
Right. Which is app.
You don't know that at this point.
Right,
because you have to know know what this is inside of init, you need to see how init's called. So then you have to be like, okay, so where is init called?
Init's called down here.
Okay, so this is case 2 as well. It's
Right.
being called as method. So this inside of init will be left to the dot, which is app. So that means when app is called, this inside of, I mean, when init is called, this will be app, right? So if you go
Right.
back to 46,
Uh-huh.
when init is called as app.init
Uh-huh.
at the bottom of the file, this will be app. So 46 is the same as app.bind events. And therefore,
Yes.
the left of the dot at 46 is app. And so this inside of bind events will be app as well.
Isn't there like an easier way than having to trace all the way back like that?
No. I mean, you could look at the debugger, but the debugger will only tell you what it is. It won't tell you why. It won't tell you that the flow that we just went through. Where
Okay.
it all depends on how init is called.
Okay.
Right? Init is kind of the
Yeah.
thing that causes
It's the magical start.
It's what causes this. Right? And so you can look in the debugger and know it's app, but you don't know why. Right? And so you just have to do that. There's no
All right.
But
All right.
but the thing is, like, if you take it step by step like we did, it's not that big of a deal.
Right. But then when
Right.
it gets like super duper billion layers, it's like context.
Yeah, you just have to take one step at a time and you'll be okay.
Okay. So the way I'm looking at it, like you said, is just kind of like not correct. The fact that I'm saying that this is being invoked by this function here. This object is invoking this function. So this is app.
I mean, I think I'm not sure that I wouldn't go to say
mean,
that you're wrong.
I
think there's a more
goes,
specific, accurate way to say that.
I mean, obviously it goes deeper when you look here, like I had pointed out, but
no, it doesn't, because we just figured out that 46 is this, when in 46, the left of the dot is this, and this we figured is app. So we know that inside bind events, this is going to be app. Right. So anywhere in 56 through 64, anytime you see this, it's going to be app.
Right. Sorry, I meant that this within this method without bind. I didn't say that right. I'm sorry. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the way to get confidence with this, you can stop sharing.
Okay. There you go. Does that work?
Yeah. So the way to own this is to, every single time you see it, know what case you're looking at.
Okay.
From the cheat sheet.
Okay, I'm gonna keep that. That's
every single time, and also realize it's implicit too. Even if you don't see it used, it's there.
Okay.
Right. So basically, and this is why it's so valuable to go through the debugger. I've been saying this in the morning meetings, but go through every single line in the application step by step with the debugger and predict what's going to happen in the next thing, in the next line. In these scenarios, step over, step into, play. Like, what's going to happen? So number one, where does the code go? You have to get that right first, because if it goes somewhere you don't think it's going to go, then you obviously can't predict the next line because you don't even know the right line that it's going to go to.
Yeah.
Assuming you get to the right next line, what's going to happen in that line? If there are any existing variables, do any of them change? Is any data added, or does the DOM change? Does this change? Right? And you got to think through all those things and just do that with every single line of code. If you do that, when you apply the rules, you're going to get bored. This is going to be quite boring. Not going to be interesting anymore.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Yes, and it helps to know there's only 4 cases.
That's helpful.
So it could only be so many things. It's definitely not rocket science. I think a lot of people overcomplicate.
5. Sorry.
No, 5 is a fake one.
Oh, okay.
Right, so I call out 5 just because I think people can't see that there's nothing interesting about it. So that's why it says just apply the above rules.
Okay. Yeah, I got you.
So they're really only 4. But people think,
all right,
if I don't have 5, people are like, oh my god, but what about that? What about the callback functions? And they think it's different. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not different.
So, all right. Yeah, the app was great. It really made me, I mean, it was two main things for me. It was reading, you know, like treating it was like a sort of like a page, and, you know, trying to read it semantically and not just like, you know, for what it is, like, you know, this dot to do's, you know, reading it like literally like reading it semantically. And then also like this really sort of was at the foreplay, at least for me. So those two things I really took away from that, and that was a great first chapter or second chapter. So
yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is, like, honestly, the code's not that great, but there's value in looking at things that aren't the most clear, because if you can make sense and bring clarity to something that's like quite chaotic, then I mean, to do that requires a certain amount of skill, right? Like, confusing code is harder to debug than really good clear code, right? So, and debugging really good clear code in a lot of ways is not challenging, but debugging kind of screwy code is really hard. And so, yeah, and being able to, like, kind of like when people think about reverse engineering stuff, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's building that skill to see, like, how does this machine work? Maybe it's not like the best one, but we just need to figure this out and fix it. And even if you want to improve something, it requires you to first understand the screwy thing. Like, you need to understand what it's doing to fix it. Joe likes the term screwy. But just like, you know, code that's not super clear, because it's quite common.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Amir? Does that clarify?
Definitely. Yeah. I'm ready for the next chapter.
Okay. Wait, did you do the digestion techniques?
It sounds familiar. It's still part of the chapter
So you
2?
didn't do it.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. The read me, the last part. Yeah, I did.
Really?
I went through it. Yeah. Let me go back.
You did end missing features?
Hold on.
It doesn't seem like you've done it.
Because I would know that automatically.
You would know that. Yeah, you would know that.
Would know.
You definitely didn't do it.
Add in features. Fix every combination of oh no. Okay.
I'll tell you this. Definitely do it. I wish I would have.
Wait, Amir, I'm worried. I'm worried that you said that you did that, but then it appears that. Did you read that page?
Yeah, I did, but I think no, I did.
Just like skim it and then hit next.
It's another one of those, like, I read it and then I figured, oh, I'll come back to it, and then I forgot about it, kind of deal.
Are there any other things like that?
What do you mean?
Are there other things that you intended to come back to but then didn't come back to besides this one?
I almost can't say no, because, you know, you kind of already caught me, but I don't think so. So, you know, but I'll definitely, you know, I'm gonna go back and look at that. But I really did methodically go through that chapter, and I'm telling you, like, I really read every line of code, and I tried to read it, you know, very semantically.
Did you take the kind of care that I kind of mentioned when you go through the debugger as an exercise and kind of predict the next line?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. You know, I could sort of see what was going to happen, I guess, in some cases. In some cases, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's kind of the point of using the debugger. So, yeah.
Okay, so I think this is just my advice. You can ignore it, but my advice would be to go through the debugger exercise where you predict the next line and keep doing it until you're 100% accurate.
Okay.
So you have to go through a couple of functions multiple times.
Okay. And I have gone through, you know, most of that code with
100% accuracy. So there's a distinct point at which I would say, okay, you can move on. The reason for that is, so the analogy I've been using recently is the debugger is helpful in helping you understand code initially, but after you understand the code, if you understand it, it should no longer tell you anything new. It should be like when you're lazy and you're calculating a tip at a restaurant and you use a calculator.
Okay.
It's like obviously you could do the math yourself, but you're lazy. And so the calculator, it doesn't tell you anything you wouldn't know yourself, right? And that shows arithmetic.
I just want to make sure you're not telling me like necessarily to memorize the app, because I can read a lot of the code and know what's going to happen or know what's going on with or without the debugger.
But there's this precision where let's say you're at, I don't know, I'm just making this up. You're at line 56, and before you step over to 57, you should have a perfect sense of what is going to happen in 57.
I think I can do that with a lot of the code.
But 100, you want to get to 100%.
I'll get that 100%, and then I'll report back.
I think it's worth doing.
Yes.
He's against memorizing.
Say that again, Andrew. Sorry, Andrew. Say it one more time.
He's against memorizing. He's not telling you to memorize anything.
Yeah. So
right.
So if you're at 56 trying to predict what's happening at 57, there's no memorization that you really need to do, but you need to think about what's happened. You need to look at the code and think about what that's going to do, and you're looking for the change, like what change is going to happen, right? And that comes from inspection and thinking through what happened just before that and what data is available right now, and it's not you can't memorize that because it could be different each time you load the application, right, depending on what data is there.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned that in like the first video that I don't want my learning to become a sequence of memorization techniques. That's absolutely not what anybody wants.
Yeah. This is not memorization. There's one more thing I want to say is with the end missing features thing.
Okay.
I think a lot of students also mistake that for memorization exercise, but it's not. If you're doing it well, it's not. So if you delete the destroy method, for example, it's not to remember the code that was there, but it's a thing about what has to be done, what work has to be done. So like at a minimum, you could say, oh, like the screen has to be updated, or the data and the array needs to be updated. Like those are the two things that need to be done. How can I do those things? Right. And then, well, you can, I don't know, you can delete the thing from the page if you wanted to. So while that wouldn't be exactly how it's done in the app, it's like, I guess that's not a bad way to go, right? Because in the app, it's just re-rendered. It's not, they don't like go and specifically delete an item. But you could do that and it would essentially accomplish the same thing. But you'd have to update the array, and that's not, there's only one way to do that really. And so you don't even have to do it the same way, but just get that behavior to happen however you want. Like you don't even need to use jQuery. You can use just JavaScript. It doesn't need to look like it looks in the original app, but that the work that method is doing has to be done. Does that make sense? And if you approach it that way, it's definitely not a memorization exercise. It's a break the work down. First, you need to know exactly what work needs to be done through observation and write exactly the discrete steps that have to happen. Break those down into tiny steps that can like almost be solved with one line of code each. And then you translate the English into code. And if you wrote the right comments down or write English down, or whatever language you think in, doesn't have to be English, then, and if you turn that into code, it will work. That's the exercise. It's not a memorization exercise. So I highly recommend doing those two things: going through the debugger, like super obsessively, and then doing the n missing features, at least n equals 1 at the minimum. Joe, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it kind of came to me like as I've been going through the course when Gordon talks about being able to like look at the code and know what's going to happen next. When I was initially in the reading section, I would look at the code and I would know what was going to happen next in the app. But I felt like I didn't quite understand what was going, how the code was really working, and like confusing that sensation with knowing what's going to, when you're in the debugger, when you look at the next line of code, based on the line of code that you're on in the debugger, you should know what variables are going to get created. You should know if the function is going to keep running or if you're going to get returned out of it. You should know if you're in a for loop, you should know if I is going to get +1 or if it's going to, or if it's going to just, or if like you should know if there's like multiple conditions in a for loop, you should know which one of the conditions is going to +1 the for loop. Like it's about knowing what the code at the very next line is going to do, what variables it's going to create, what actions it's going to take. That's the depth. And like when I was in the reading section, I confused knowing what the line did in the app with knowing what the next variable was going to get created when I stepped into the next line. It's two entirely different things. And you can feel like you understand the code because you do have a better understanding of the code, or you wouldn't even be able to tell what the app's going to do. Like, you know, the destroy feature is going to destroy, it's going to delete something, but knowing how that works line by line in the code is another level of depth. And I think that's what you might be at, the same point that I was at, where you're like, I can read it, I get what's going on, but then these questions don't really like add up when you have to like deal with them by like answering something or knowing how it works. And I think that's the difference. And it comes with time. Like, I wasn't perfect when I left the reading section, but everything that happened after that made me get better and better at doing that. So now when I look at the debugger, I can tell what the next line is going to do. And if I don't, it means that there's something I'm missing about a variable or a line before, so on. I can go back and I understand that. But it's a lot. It's like it's basically like your brain is becoming the debugger. So when you look at the debugger before you click over to the next line, you fill out all the little side variables that the debugger is going to throw down, and you know where it's going to go. So that's what he's telling you that you should do.
Yeah, it's really great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. I figured it was the same conflation that you're having, that I'm having, that I had when I was there.
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for pointing out that nuance. I think I sometimes miss it. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, so you're basically saying you initially thought that if you could describe what changes on the screen, like on the web page, then you know what is happening. But that's different than the minute details of what variable has changed, like what iteration we are in the for loop and all this, right? The details.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good to point out. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, and the whole point of this is to I call it calibrating your mind to think like the computer. And it's of course it's not natural. It's not going to feel natural for you right now. And I can't remember who said this, but I read this recently. Like this desire for it to feel natural is really unproductive. What you should want it to feel like is habitual, where you just do it out of habit, and your brain is the patterns that are going in through your head, like the computation that's happening. You've worked through that so many times that when you see the code, you can habitually know what is going to happen because you've seen it so many times, right? That's not a naturalness. It's just it's developing a habit through doing it just so many times until you're bored and there's nothing new, right? That's what I want you to get to. So that when you look at code, you're just like, I got it. You don't have to like always do this terrible like step-by-step investigation for even little things. Like little things should start to feel really comfortable, and then your comfort will start to you'll start to have that comfort with more and more complicated stuff over time. But there is a point at which it becomes too complicated and you cannot wrap your head around it. But that is we'll talk about that later. You'll see that later. There's a point where it's so onerous, it's just very difficult to keep track of things. So what you end up doing is you keep track of a simplified form of what's happening. And you'll have to get to that point too. Not now, because right now what's happening is so simple that you can just keep the whole thing in your head, but that's not always going to be possible. Right? I mean, just think about like a self-driving car that's learning things and statistically changing how it does things based on things it's done in the past that are based on statistics and no longer based on if statement that you wrote. Right? There's a probabilistic nature to the code, and then it becomes like it's very hard to think about. That's just one example, but also when you just have a huge file with 30 variables that are changing at the same time, that becomes even something that simple, relatively simple, is really hard to keep track of. So then you have to kind of simplify the problem so that you can feel like you know what's going on, even though you don't fully know what's going on. So the practice we're going through now is like easy mode. I feel like so you have to get comfortable with this level of stuff, I think, and it will prepare you to go into the more difficult situations. Okay, cool. So Adnan, all right, didn't have any questions. Okay, cool. Then I think, so we're right at time. Hey, Agna. And Swami, people chatted, type stuff in the chat. So it looks like we've exhausted all the questions and we're right at time. So I'll end the broadcast right now. After office hours, we usually have a open discussion that's off the air, so it's not recorded. And since it's off the air, it's more casual, less pressure. So if you want to join for that, please call into the Hangout. If not, then thanks so much for joining and hope it was helpful. If you have any questions for me or feedback, you can email me, gordon@watchandcode.com, and I'll be sure to reply to you there. So thanks, everyone. Have a good night, and I'll see you either now or next week.